the big thing that I love and respect about you guys is it's not just complaints. Like I kind of get this with, I've just been so disillusioned with the right or conservatives or whatever you want to call them, and a lot of Christians too, because it's just pointing and complaining. Look at how horrible. Look at how awful. Things are so bad. It's just complaint, complaint, complaint. Okay,
The meme.
yes, like yes, you're
Yeah.
right, but what are you gonna do about it? Well, I'm
I
just gonna
love the
complain.
meme of
Well, I'm just
yeah.
gonna be, get on Twitter and tweet. But you guys are like, okay, let's do something about it. Let's organize. Let's really educate. Let's seek to educate people. Let's try to like actually get into our communities, get into our churches, and start making changes. So I just like that mentality. I mean, obviously, you guys are just starting out, so the best is yet to come, and the growth will happen. And actual change kind of is probably, I guess, yet to be like tangibly calculated, but it's about to, because you guys have that mindset and that mission of let's go out and really change this stuff, not just sit at our keyboards and complain about it. So yeah, I
Yeah.
love I love
I
kind of semi quasi being a part of this movement, and I love this movement and what you guys are doing, and I'm very optimistic about the future, like for sure,
yeah. Thanks.
for
Yeah,
sure.
no, I love the particular meme of in regards to what you were saying earlier about the just pointing and complaining. The one meme where it's the elephant, it's a Stone Toss comic. It's where they're all kneeling and there's like the elephant kneeling next to a guy representing the Republican Party, and he's like, "Man, imagine if the shoe was on the other foot."
Yeah,
Aren't liberals such hypocrites? And it shows like the first guy is already dead on the ground, and they have the gun to the head of the next guy, and
yeah,
the elephant's sitting there like, man, aren't they such hypocrites?
yeah. I mean that's it.
That's how
That's
the world feels like. That's how the world feels like sometimes.
yeah.
I don't want to complain about it. And see, the problem is, solutions are required at this point.
Right. Like
And if
complaining's
you don't
fine, but if that's all you're doing, that's not fun.
All
Right?
right, and if you
Like
don't, yeah, and if you don't start work, and this is like on a serious note, because this is my has been my observation. I've kind of bounced the range before me and SK started our own thing. We were all over the place, different organizations. Some a little more radical than others, not like hardcore, but the ideology sometimes shifted a little more radical than most. And from what I've seen with some of these organizations is that if you don't give them practical solutions, they immediately go to just pure aggression. Well, then we have to
yeah,
fight. Well, then we have to do this, and then we have to do that. And it's partly fear, and it's genuine.
yeah,
Uh, because there's a lot of in reality everything is pretty scary. But if you don't give them reasonable and rational outlets to actually fix these issues, you actually end up creating uh, dangerous people. Like I've always found it funny that I feel like I grew up with a whole. I think we might have talked about this in the last live stream that me and you were on. Uh, I came into the like political sphere around Gamergate.
yeah,
So it was one of those things where if I was just left, like in theory, right? In theory, if I was just left alone, right? And I got to see my big, uh, how do I say it? You remember like the video game Mass Effect?
I've never played it, but I know what it is.
Yeah. So like there used to be this thing where like there was like attractive blue alien girl or whatever. I forget what her name was, Liara, I think. And they had like all these attractive girls on there, but it wasn't just her. It was um, like Laura Croft and everything. And what was it, Anita Sarkeesian started making videos about all these characters and female objectification and blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
And even if she had some points, it started like blowing up into the Gamergate thing and inclusivity. And I can't help but think that in some ways they created me.
yeah,
They like I wasn't that religious. I really wasn't that religious. I wasn't very political. I just wanted to play video games, right? I wanted to be left alone in my own little soy boy hell and just, get fat, play my video games and just be a consumer. Consumer. Right? That's all I wanted. That's
yeah,
all most people wanted, honestly. If you come from like a standard American raising, that's kind of how most people turn out. And I would have got, my 9 to 5 and just toiled away until I died. And that they could have got that, right? You
Yeah.
could have got that, but you had to push. You had to push.
Yeah.
You had to push. And now this entire generation has been created, and they're all, now that they're all red pilled, Christ pilled, some of them, the ones that really understand it. But now that they're quote unquote red pilled and they see what's going on around them and they've woken up to it, they want answers and they want solutions, and they have none. And the boomer conservatives, bless their hearts, they have no solutions. Have you ever talked to an
Yeah.
older person? Have you ever talked to an older person about what needs to be done? And
Yeah,
if
it's
you tell them,
pathetic.
I think this needs to be done, or this
unbearable.
this needs to be done, or that needs to be done, they'll tell you one of two things. Number one, they'll deny that there's a problem at all.
Yeah.
Or number two, they'll say that that's extreme. They'll acknowledge the problem, but they won't acknowledge any kind of solution.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the problem is that if you don't have that Christian background where you, realize that you have to exhaust every single option under the sun before you are justified in anything aggressively to solve an issue, you just start breeding radicals, and that's what's happening right now. So that's why I'm really proud of what we're doing with the New Columbia movement right now, because we're acting as this bulwark against that kind of continuing to use the lingo of the generation that probably would be the most interested in what we're doing. A bulwark against that black pill, the idea of, there's nothing that can be done. We're all done for. We're all screwed. I saw you posted something in your Discord not that long ago about, hey boys, where are we meeting up for the FEMA re-education camp? The Walmart re-education camp. I found out which one mine was, though.
Yeah. Hopefully we end up in the same one. That'd be pretty based.
Yeah, it'd be pretty big. I saw some of those old memes where like there's a guy winking and pointing at somebody, like, "Hey," when you meet your online friends at the re-education camp.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the Facebook stuff recently too. Not to get too off topic with it, but the Facebook thing where I knew there was going to be some great memes for the you may have been radicalized, or like you may be getting radicalized by the content you've seen. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen the memes, but I've been on Facebook now for probably almost a year.
You're not following anything based.
So yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but pretty much everybody I know got one of those, and the memes they started making were great. It's like you recently have been exposed to radical content, and the one guy who made the meme underneath it, do you? Yeah, he added the text to it. It's like, did you know you were recently exposed to radical content? Of course I know who. It's me.
Right,
I
yeah.
made the radical content.
Yeah.
But
I did, yes. Fact. Me.
yes, I know who made it. That was me. But yeah, in general, we're kind of growing quite rapidly, and I'm excited to see where things go as we continue to grow here.
Well, yeah, like kind of what you said, and then leading into that too is like, again, it's just a meme. It goes around. Is that but it's a meme, but it's actually like philosophically profound. Is that good times make weak men
Right.
make hard times. Like it's a cycle, and it's so true, and we're in that. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
in the period where 50 to 100 years ago, good times made weak men. And that's our parents or our grandparents or maybe even some of our peers, or I wouldn't say us as in me and you,
Mm-hmm.
but like us, like in general, like our society. So we're entering into the bad times. We're either in it or we're just entering into it. So what are we going to do
Yeah.
about it? I mean, it's almost out of necessity. We have to now stand up and reclaim it. And I think it's almost inevitable, whether you like it or not. Like things are either going to get so hard that you have to in order to survive, or they're just going to get hard enough that it's going to motivate people to become strong men again. And I think the boomers are just the epitome of that. The good times made them weak.
I
And
think I think the
it's our
big
job to
thing
kind
with
of reclaim that and rebuild it. And I like to.
I think
I've been kind of harping on this thought too recently of what has been lost can be found, right? So let's say the boomers lost America or lost, Christianity or lost, something has clearly been lost from like the America that was, that everyone kind of fantasizes about, like that early 19th century or that 19th century, early 20th century America that everyone kind of wants to like reclaim or fight back. And okay,
Not interested too much in that
but let's say
personally.
overall
Yeah.
we've just lost something good in this country.
Mhm.
It can be reclaimed. It's not
Yeah.
gone and
So
destroyed forever. And like that's what you guys, I feel like the premise of what you guys are up to is let's reclaim faith, family, fraternity. Let's reclaim morality and let's, rebuild our families and rebuild our communities, starting with us and building
yeah.
upwards.
So this kind of starts to get into like hardcore philosophy stuff, but one thing that I always caution people with, not you in particular, but I always let them know that that 1950s aesthetic and vibe, right? It was a sham. It was a
Right. Well,
sham. It
you're
was
right.
gilded. Right.
I mean, I think America was
There was a
lost before the 1900s. If you
I
want to
I
truly
think
ask me, I think it was like World War One was kind of the start of
I think
where men
America
got weak.
had some very serious flaws from the start.
Yeah.
I mean, I love America in as much as you can love a country without turning it into an idol, right? That's why I
Exactly. Yeah.
actually
Exactly.
that's why I actually put fraternity last.
Yeah.
Right. I believe the most important thing in your life is God, right? That it's your
Absolutely. Yeah.
faith. Your faith
Absolutely.
comes before anything. I mean, and I know somebody might, clutch their pearls and be like, "What about your family?" Well, if you don't remember, I'm gonna feel stupid for not remembering the name of the biblical character that took his
Abraham.
child.
Yeah.
Abraham took his child. He was going to sacrifice him. Now,
Right.
I'm not saying you should sacrifice your child. Please
Which
don't do
is
that. If
which
there's a
is the
voice in
point
your
of
head
that.
telling you to sacrifice your child, please go get it checked before you think. But before you jump to the conclusion that God wants you to sacrifice your child, I would like you to go and get some counseling and maybe some information for some
Yeah.
medications, because that might not necessarily be what's happening there. Abraham was a very particular situation several thousand years ago, but when we're talking about stratifying what's important in life, I always say faith is hands down the most important. The next one is your family, because that's your immediate surroundings. That's what you have the most control over. Not to control your family, but you have the most influence is probably a better word.
And I
You
mean,
have the
and
most influence
responsibility
on
for as a man,
right.
like you have a responsibility to lead your family. So like
Yeah, you have
you
a
should be looking upwards to God first, and then
mhm,
after that you should be looking downwards, which is your family, who's looking up at
mhm.
you. In that like spiritual
Right,
chain of command.
right, and then after that, you have your allegiance to your tribe, right?
Right. Yeah.
Assuming that tribe is in its institutional structure aligned to the same values that we were saying were more important prior.